And welcome to the University of Dundee Master of Education webinar. My name is Helen Spiropoulos. I'm the Admissions Manager at Stafford Global. And joining me this evening all the way from the university is Dr. Marie. Good evening to you, Dr. Marie.
Good evening to you and to everyone listening tonight.
Well, I can see that we have quite a few applicants that have joined us this evening. I can see some as far as South Africa and China, as well as Saudi Arabia and other parts of the Middle East. Welcome, everyone. How we are going to conduct the webinar this evening is I'm just briefly going to introduce you to Stafford. And then I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Marie, who's going to take you through the program. Now, towards the end of the presentation, you will have the opportunity to type out any questions that you'd like to ask me or Dr. Marie. I am going to be looking at these questions quite carefully because a lot of the questions tend to be identical. So I am going to start grouping them together. Please do listen out for that important question and answer. Okay, so let's get started. Who is Stafford Global? Well, Stafford was established in 1993, and we are a resource centre for 6 UK universities, one of which is University of Dundee. Now, we do offer a variety of programs ranging from certificates to diplomas, bachelors, MBAs, right through until doctorate. So we really do have all the programs for your personal and your professional needs. Now, the mere fact that you are here with us this evening means that you have been in touch with one of our experienced academic consultants. And our role is to assist you throughout the application process, ensure that you are in the correct program and that you get that very, very important unconditional offer. We also do provide some academic and administrative support as well. I'm now going to hand you over to Dr. Marie, who's going to take you through the program, and I'll join you again towards the end of the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Marie.
Thank you very much, Helen. So welcome to the University of Dundee and the Master of Education Programme. As Helen says, my name is Dr. Marie Beresford-Dey. I'm a lecturer in education, primarily leadership, and I'm also the academic lead and advisor of studies for any students who are undertaking aspects of the MEd via Stafford Associates. So hello and welcome to you. So I'm going to start off by just outlining who we are at Dundee before moving on to the programme and then giving some specifics about the programme. So at Dundee, who are we? Well, we like to think that we make, and we know we make a difference here and now in the real world, and this is what delivers impact. We work across boundaries, we encourage a cross-disciplinary exchange of thoughts and ideas and innovation through a variety of teaching methods and perspectives. We work to foster a partnership approach between students and staff, and we think that this also helps us to adopt that enterprising approach embedded in the curriculum. We're actively seeking ways of working together across those different boundaries and encourage and support students to be transformative, making time to listen to you, to help you and to support you. We act locally and globally, and we recognise and respect differences, actively promoting inclusion and nurturing creativity and innovation. As a modern university, we focus our efforts on 3 key themes, and that's improving social, cultural and physical well-being to develop those innovative solutions to 21st century problems. So all in all, we transform lives. So why Dundee? Well, as you can see from the listings there, we're frequently placed highly in the university rankings, which we are very proud of. We have a substantial global reputation with students from over 150 countries around the world. In addition, no matter where you are in the world, where you're studying from, we promote a real sense of community And it's this that we feel that really sets us apart. At Dundee, we can offer you a learning experience with one of the world's top universities. And during the course of your studies, we'll offer you excellent teaching, learning and support resources. So moving on to the MEd. What is the MEd, or the Master of Education? It's a professional development programme undertaken at level 11 on the Scottish Qualifications Framework, so that's study at master's level. And although the MEd is recognised by the General Teaching Council of Scotland, it's not a teaching qualification, as different nationalities and different governments and governing bodies have different prerequisites for teaching. We do advise that you check with your relevant government or governing bodies or registering bodies to identify what those requirements are. Okay, so a brief overview. We do offer part-time and fast-track study on the MEd programme, and this does offer you some flexibility and autonomy. It's a blended learning programme, which means that you will be offered some face-to-face opportunities in the induction workshops, as well as the online learning. It's a practice-based professional development learning qualification, so most of you will be in practice at the moment, a relevant practice. Some of you will have had experience of that practice, but not necessarily currently working in education or a teaching environment. It's a programme that is recognised by the International Baccalaureate, and I'll come to that shortly and provide further discussion on that. And we, as I say, we have students from all over the globe, but also from all sectors of education. And we can offer you a variety of different routes and foci throughout, and I'll be going into some of the named awards and modules soon. And we treat all students equally, so even though you'll be studying at a distance, you'll still have access to student support, for example, as you would if you was on campus. We are an internationally recognised postgraduate qualification, and as I say, we have students from all sectors, so that's from early years through to higher education and from private and public sectors in education. So why study at master's level? Well, there's several benefits of undertaking a master's degree. First of all, it deepens and broadens your knowledge through asking questions, seeking answers, and exploring the landscape from different perspectives, which then changes the world in way in which you perceive the world. And through this, you'll develop a more inquiring, reflective, critical, and innovative approach to practice. Through undertaking the MEd, you'll demonstrate your mastery of education, which of course can then be honed further to specialise in an educational area. It enables you to develop transferable skills such as criticality, communication, use of technology, and of course organisational skills. Study at master's level enables you to improve your career prospects, which often leads to higher incomes, as this also includes professional progression, sometimes into leadership and management roles. Also, you might wish to progress academically to doctoral study if you obtain the full MEd. Some countries consider teaching a master's level profession, so therefore obtaining an MEd enables you to meet the professional requirements for these countries and may afford you further flexibility in your teaching and educational careers. Why study at the MEd at the University of Dundee? Well, it's a programme of study that brings together theory with your practice. It encourages you to draw on your experiences and align them with the literature. It enables you to question why we do certain things and whether there are alternative ways where practice can be enhanced. It encourages you to strengthen your knowledge about global educational developments through offering an opportunity to critically explore different perspectives of education, all of which help to develop or extend your confidence and enhance your professional career. And as tutors, we're continuously seeing our students' practice being influenced by their learning at master's level. And this inevitably benefits the students and staff who you're working with. To obtain an MEd, you will need to complete 180 credits of study in any of the named awards that you see on the screen there. The award of Leading Learning and Teaching, highlighted in bold, is our generic award which offers subject flexibility. However, if you require a subject specialism, you can see that we have a number of options, from educational leadership to TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other language. And that's our relatively new pathway in the MEd that we're excited to introduce you to. And students who might undertake the TESOL route, it may be suitable for new graduates and teachers of English with little to a few years of teaching experience. It could also be suitable for those who would like to become TESOL leaders in their institutions and pursue perhaps consultancy in charities, educational and organisational charities, or state or private schools and universities. The main benefit for employability is the MEd TESOL programme gives graduates a competitive advantage for English teaching positions at state or private schools. Alternatively, you can also gain employment in translation and editing for the public sector. So there's a wide variety of opportunities with that route. Okay, so taking a look at some of the optional modules now, you can see them there on the screen. Each of the optional modules enable you to carry out the study and assignment without being in a workplace environment, as long as you have relevant teaching experience to draw from. Each optional module is considered as a single credit module and is worth 30 credits. In addition, we also have 3 core modules, reflecting upon practice, research methods and dissertation. We may also, depending on the route that you take, be required to undertake reflecting upon leadership in the International Baccalaureate, and again I'll come to that shortly. And 2 of those core modules are worth 30 credits, but the dissertation that's the only module in the MEd that's a double credit module, so that is worth 60 credits. Okay, to demonstrate how the named awards and modules link, you can see that the generic Leading Learning and Teaching award enables you to undertake any 2 optional modules, along with having flexibility at dissertation stage, so any relevant educational topic. Whereas the named awards, not highlighted in bold, do require you to undertake specific modules, and the dissertation must also focus on an area that's relevant to the named awards. So for example, if you wish to obtain an MEd in educational leadership, then one of your modules must be leadership and organisational development. But then your dissertation, if you're doing the full MEd, must also focus on educational leadership. Okay, I promised some information about the International Baccalaureate, and here we are. Okay, for these awards, once you commence your studies at Dundee, you'll need to register directly with the IB. We'll provide guidance for this process. We also have a dedicated member of staff who will provide you with IB support. There's no additional assignments for each of these IB awards, but you'll be expected to underpin your writing with and thinking with IB publications. And again, we provide you with support for this. So what you can see is we have the 3 different awards. First of all, the Certificate in Leadership Practice, and the IB don't require any prerequisites of IB experience for that award. Then we have the Advanced Certificate in Leadership Research, and there's 2 pathways available for this depending on whether you have any IB experience or not. When we talk about IB experience, we do mean 3 years teaching experience in an IB school, and again that's specified by the IB themselves. So we have 2 different pathways that you could take for that Advanced Certificate in Leadership Research. Alternatively, we have the Advanced Certificate in Learning and Teaching Research, and for that the IB specified that you must have 3 years teaching experience in an IB school. And just to give you some examples of routes through, we start here with a typical part-time route through the entire MEd, and this does include the IB Advanced Teaching and Learning Research. So for that you would need the 3 years teaching experience in an IB school. So in year 1, in the first semester, you would start with the core module, Reflecting Upon Practice, followed by the first optional module, and at that point you could exit with a postgraduate certificate because you will have achieved the 60 credits. Hopefully you will continue your studies and move on to year 2, where you will undertake your second optional module, followed by the core module Research Methods, and that will provide eligibility for you to exit if you wish with a postgraduate diploma at 120 credits. Or in year 3, you will undertake the dissertation across semesters 1 and 2 of that final year and exit with your MEd with 180 credits. And it's at that point where you will then have the eligibility for the IB Advanced Teaching and Learning Research Award. Okay, another example here. Where we have a typical part-time route through the MEd, which also then incorporates one of the pathways, and it is the main pathway, I have to say, for the IB Leadership Awards. So in year 1, semester 1, you would undertake Leadership and Organisational Development, followed by Reflecting Upon Leadership in the IB. At that point, you may wish to exit with a postgraduate certificate, and you will have eligibility for the IB Leadership Practice Award. But then moving on to year 2, should you decide to continue, and again we hope you do, in year 2 you would undertake your second optional module. Your Leadership and Organisational Development in year 1 is classed as the first, so an optional module in year 2, followed by the Research Methods and a similar exit stage as previously mentioned. And then in year 3, you would undertake your dissertation with that focus on leadership. But if you're going for the IB Advanced Award, then you would also need to have an IB focus in your dissertation. And that then would provide you with eligibility for the MEd and the Advanced IB Leadership Awards. The programme has options for fast-track and part-time study, as previously mentioned. The key difference here is that you double up the amount of work carried out in a semester. For the fast track, so you would undertake a total of 60 credits in 1 semester as opposed to the 30 credits for the part-time route. I have to say the fast track option is a significant undertaking, and if you are thinking about doing this, I strongly advise you to consider whether you have space to accommodate approximately 30 hours of study per week. However, if you do decide upon this option but then feel it's too overwhelming, we can transfer you into the part-time route at certain parts of the course. This is usually the start of a semester. Equally, if you commence the part-time route, but perhaps your circumstances change so that you feel that you're able to double up your study, then again, we'll be able to transfer you at certain points in that study. And the important thing is, whichever, if you're transferring from one to the other, regardless of which, do contact us so we can talk you through that during your studies. So, as I say, there are times where we do get to meet face to face when we're not in this COVID world, and we are planning for the next workshops. Workshops are not mandatory, but they are highly recommended. They're a fantastic opportunity to meet with other students as well as some of the tutors, and it's a bit space for us to start building that sense of community, a learning community. The induction workshop will provide you with an opportunity to gain an understanding of the various mechanisms within the university's online learning platform, how to access the online learning, and how to access the various opportunities for support. It will also enable you to develop an understanding of critical reading, thinking and writing required for master's level learning. Feedback from our students is always excellent. Students find them very worthwhile and beneficial to moving forward with their studies. The next workshops are planned for Friday the 15th and Saturday the 16th of October. So if you do apply and become a student on the MEd, then I do hope to see you at those workshops. Okay, entry requirements on the MEd. For all routes, you must have an undergraduate degree, and that can be in any discipline. It doesn't have to be in education. If your undergraduate degree was not taught in English, then you must have the English language or that's equivalent to an academic IELTS of 6.5. Then we have the workplace-based route and non-workplace-based routes. Generally, these are well aligned. The difference here being that some of you will be in a workplace and may want to focus any of your thinking, maybe your project or an assignment on that workplace. Of course, if you undertake the non-workplace-based route, then you can still carry out all of the assignments. It will be in a slightly different way. But no difference in wording to the workplace-based route, but you must have enough work experience in a relevant setting to be able to draw from. Okay, graduate timescales, because we do get asked quite a lot of questions about graduation. So it's important that we make this clear from the beginning. Your studies, upon success, upon marking and reviewing from the tutors, will be presented to the Board of Examiners meeting, who will confer appropriate awards to be made for each student on the MEd programme that's eligible to graduate. The MEd Board of Examiner meeting is held in September, and Chair's Action meeting is held in May of each year, which will coincide with the graduation ceremonies of June for the summer ceremony and November for the winter ceremony. So we do have lots of information around graduation, but do remember that there will be some delay, or likely to be some delay, between your feedback and your final grade and graduation. So what do our students say? Well, we do get lots of wonderful feedback from the students, particularly in relation to how it's helped students develop their own practice and identifying those areas for improvement, how it's increased their eligibility for promotion and going into higher level roles, and the support that they've appreciated across the university, not just the tutors, and that working relationship between student and tutor, but also the support from our dedicated university teams. Okay, so for tuition fees, please do ask your academic consultant at Stafford for a breakdown of the tuition fees and any instalment scheme. The application deadline is the 10th of October, and it might seem quite a way, a few months to get there, but trust me, it will be here before we know it. So please get your applications in as soon as possible. And on that note, I believe that Helen is returning to help with the questions. Thank you very much, Helen.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much, Marie. It was indeed very informative, and right on cue, we have quite a few questions that have come through already. Okay, so let's look at these questions. We do have an interesting one from Laura. What are the group work and collaboration expectations? And if there are any of these, what is the percentage split between group work and individual study?
That's very difficult for me to put a percentage rate on that, and the reason being because it differs for every single module. For example, dissertation, that's your piece of work and it's your study that you will be driving forward by yourself, and you're working alongside your one-to-one supervisor. So team working and group working, it wouldn't be an expectation on that module, bar collaborating with your supervisor. Of course, there's opportunities for informal collaborations and meetups with your fellow students. In other modules, there will be an expectation for you to collaborate. There may be some form of formative peer assessment, for example. There will be group activities, but it really does depend on the module because it differs from module to module. In terms of any group assessments, I do not know of any module that suggests any form of group assessment on the MEd.
Okay, good. And there's a question from Dina. Are there any physical online classes at any point throughout the program?
By physical online classes, if you mean sort of a webinar that's live, the live sessions, yes, all modules will have live sessions at some point during the program. If that's a single credit module, generally you are looking at perhaps 4 structured sessions and then 4 drop-in sessions. So that's led by the students, by their questions and queries and any comments or anything that they want to raise that's relevant to the module. So altogether, we're looking at around, or a minimum, should I say, of 8 live sessions. Now, they're not mandatory and they are recorded. So if you can't make those sessions because you'll be working, you'll have lives and there'll be family commitments perhaps that you may not be able to make them, then you will have the recordings to refer to.
Okay, and if I happen to apply for an IB Advanced Certificate in Teaching and Learning, does my dissertation need to be IB related?
If you apply for, sorry,
if you I was cut out there. If you apply for the IB Advanced Certificate in Teaching and Learning, does my dissertation need to be IB related?
You will need to bring the IB into that. into your dissertation, as with the rest of your studies as well. And that will be drawing from some of the IB philosophies and some of the publications around the IB. So that's why the IB do specify that you need that 3 years teaching experience, so you have a good solid understanding of the IB to be able to draw from.
Okay, in your opinion, what would be the benefit of an MEd in comparison to an MA?
They should, if they're at level 11, then there will be very little difference. I suppose for me, MEd really specific master in education. It's clear what it does. Whereas your MA is Master of Arts, and that might be Master of Arts in Educational Studies or whatever, so it will still be very clear. What you would need to do, some MAs work slightly different, so you would need to just check that it's at the same level, that it is at that master's level, and in Scotland we call that level 11. In other parts of the UK that's level 7. So you will just make sure that you check that out, because that is what would differentiate between the two.
And can I change my initial choice of modules after we study or start studying, or do I have to choose everything at inception of my application?
Well, ideally, you will have a good idea of your goal, your end goal, and you'll be working towards that. But we do understand things change. It may be that you get a new job, circumstances change, and there's a different outlook to something. So yes, you can often change, but it comes with a caveat. It depends what you're changing from and to. So, for example, if you have applied for the MEd in Leading, Learning and Teaching, which is quite generic and open. If you then wanted to transfer to a named award, you would only be able to do so if you have undertaken a module that is linked to that named award. If you haven't done that, then you wouldn't be able to do so. However, if you want to do it the other way, you're on a named award and you want to go to the more generic award, then yes, we can do that. So we would need to look at what you'd applied for, what you have studied so far, and what your intentions are going forward before we could give a definite answer.
Okay, and with regards to assignments, are there specific deadlines provided to us in time in order to submit these assignments? Or is it quite difficult to follow? Give us some background on the assignments.
Okay, most of the assignments for the single credit modules are 5,000 word assignments. Often that will come at the end of the module. There are 2 modules that differ slightly from that. And your dissertation is a 15,000 word piece of writing. For all of those modules, you are given the date before the dates are on the system before we actually even open up for the semester. So you will have those dates right from the very beginning of your study. There's also formative assessments. Now, dissertation, you will arrange that and agree that with your supervisor on that one-to-one basis. But for the single credit modules, those dates are given also at the start of the semester in what we call a module planner. So the moment you have access to your module, you'll be opening up, you'll see the introduction from your tutor, but then within that, you'll also see that there's a module planner, and that sets out the entire semester, so for any formative days, but also any live sessions that are being scheduled as well. So we try and keep you as informed as possible. Occasionally, there may need to be a change in a date, not for the assessments, I have to say, but for any live sessions because of staffing, for example. That's a very rare occasion, but even if that happens, we give you plenty of notice and we give you alternatives.
Okay, and a question on exemptions. Do you accept any exemptions, and what is the process thereof?
Okay, we accept some exemptions, so we will accept what we call RPL, so recognised prior learning. What we mean by recognised is formal academic learning at the same level, so level 11 or master's level learning. It has to be at that for us to recognise. We don't accept any credit exemption for experiential learning. It has to be that formal academic learning. Now, we can offer up to 50% depending on that recognised prior learning, which could be a maximum of 90 credits if you're taking the full MEd. However, we do have to look at the dates of when you undertook that study or when you completed that study, because you need to apply for RPL or exemption within 5 years of that previous learning.
Absolutely.
If I could just add another note on there. If you are applying for exemption, please do make sure that you provide the documentation and any learning outcomes of any previous studies, so we'll be able to identify quickly whether we can award that exemption or not.
Absolutely. I was just about to add that. Thank you very much, Marie. That's excellent. So, Marie is quite correct. To make it a lot better for Marie and her team, please do get in touch with your academic consultant, and we'll be able to advise you as to what documentation is required to be submitted. Just want to make a point here that if you are looking for exemptions from a bachelor degree, if you've done a bachelor degree and you're looking for exemptions, that will not be possible because they are at two different levels. A bachelor degree is on a slightly lower level than a master's degree. So if you have completed anything on a master's level, whether it's a postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma, the university will be able to assess that for exemptions. Okay. All right, and another question on resources. Will there be resources provided about IB methodology, and how are we going to indicate them in our assignments?
Okay, by methodology, I'm thinking you mean philosophies here, IB philosophies. And yes, we supply most often than not there are publications available in the resource list that you will receive for every single module that you're on. I know certainly I can speak from my own module of leadership and organisational development. In that resource list, there's quite a number of publications identified for you to draw from that. Now, depending where you are in the IB and your academic studies in the MEd, so for the first module, you'll be bringing in just some of the IB thinking in terms of that literature, maybe making a few comparisons to non-IB schools. As you go forward, certainly into the next module, if you're doing reflecting upon IB leadership, for example, or reflecting upon leadership in the IB, you will be very much expected to bring the IB in, but also a lot of the teaching will surround IB as well. So it will be there in your learning quite strongly, which you'll be able to then draw from. If you're going in other routes, then again, you'll be able to draw from publications. If you're unsure, you will speak to your tutor and ask for their guidance, but also you do get access to a lot of IB resources directly from the IB, and that's something when we register you with the IB at the beginning of the course that you'll be given access to their resources. So there's lots of things that you can draw from to support your understanding and how you will use that thinking in your assignments.
Okay, and I have applied for educational leadership. That is fantastic. And the question is, I know I have to take the leadership module, but can my optional module be inclusive education?
Yes, your second optional module can be on anything, because you've got that mandatory, although it's an optional module, it's mandatory within that that named award. But your second optional module can be on any area. So yes, inclusion will be quite suitable.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Are there any difficult or easy modules, and how long is a module?
This is a master's degree.
Very interesting question.
Are there any easier modules than others? I wouldn't say so, no. And also, what you have to think, what one person might find easier, another one's not going to. So I can't answer that one. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Dr. Marie, is that, you know, if you consistently do work at the modules, as Dr. Marie has said in her presentation, if you dedicate a certain amount of hours per week to your studies, you can very, very successfully complete the
and that is the key, because you can't expect to write the assignment after studying for 3 weeks. You know, you have to have that depth, and it's the depth that we're looking for.
Absolutely. And remember that Dr. Marie and her team are there to assist you. So they are available through their online platform. So that's exactly what the program is about, the flexibility, but also the good, strong support from the university.
Absolutely.
Okay, so just going on to the next questions. Right, is there any university assessor that actually will see me in a classroom? We are currently only in the classroom once or twice a week. So is this part of the program?
No, we at master's level, this is not a teaching practice award, so we don't actually need to come out and observe your teaching practice, whether that be virtually or physically in a classroom. What you're doing is you're reflecting upon your practice and bringing in or aligning that with the theory. So it's the way that you discuss your practice or previous practice that is crucial here.
If I decide to only do the postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma, how many years do I have until I can come back and complete my full master's?
Yeah, and you know, we have this quite, it's not an unusual occurrence. So you have 5 years to come to return to us and complete your full master's. We hope that you would return sooner than that. So, you know, I like to think when students are studying that there's a momentum that's picked up, and we'd like you to maintain that momentum. So the longer the period is that you remove yourself from the studies to return later, then that momentum narrows. So if possible, I know it's not always possible, we'd like to see you back sooner than that.
You mentioned that I can perhaps look at changing some modules. I'm assuming the same would occur with a specialization. Can I change my specialization throughout my studies? And my second question is, can I do 2 specializations at the same time?
That question comes up quite regularly. It always makes me smile. So first of all, yes, similar to the modules, it depends what you're wanting to transfer from and to as to whether we can do that and what you've already studied. Where we can, we will support you in that, but it's not always possible. But the sooner you speak to us about it, the greater your chances are of us being able to do that. In terms of more than one specialisation, not really. If you're doing a named award, then you're doing that named award. That's what you're studying for. You can't study for 2 named awards, for example. But with that said, if you think about, say, if you have a named award, let's go for educational leadership, but then your optional module, and somebody mentioned inclusion earlier, so if we use that, then your transcripts will identify that. So it does suggest that there is another subject area that you have studied at master's level. So it's not a second named award, but it will show on that transcript. And of course, if you go for the leading learning teaching, then you'll have 2 areas in that transcript as well.
And is this program recognised worldwide? The reason I'm asking is I intend to teach in Singapore in the next couple of years. So will this qualification assist me in doing so?
Absolutely, without doubt. It is a Master's Award that is globally recognised, and even from our own student body, I can tell you that students have moved to Singapore, a whole host of countries that they have moved to, either during their studies or post-study. When I say during their studies, usually at the latter end of their study, when they're coming towards their MEd, then they've made the end of the MEd, they've made that decision. But yes, they have moved around the world, and it's quite exciting to see where they move to and from and how their career progresses.
In the educational leadership module, what exactly is covered, and why should I choose that particular specialization?
Well, that specialization for me is open to everybody, regardless of whether you're aspiring, thinking about, or are formally an educational leader. It's for everybody. What it covers is some of the, as you would expect, the leadership theories, looking at differences between leadership and management, looking at different approaches to leadership, thinking about teamwork, things like concepts such as emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, the importance of communication. There's a whole range of subjects within that. And often students will come at the start of the module and say, but I'm not a leader, I'm not so sure I can do this module, I'm not sure I can carry it out. But we're all leaders, and if you are in a classroom as a teacher, you are leading in that classroom. And I think we need to move away from this notion of formal leadership, having the title of a leader or a manager, and seeing each of us as a leader in our roles, regardless of what they are.
Ken, are we viewed like any other University of Dundee student, even though we are studying online?
Yes. You're very much a University of Dundee student, and that's the way that we view you, and we hope that that's the way that you will view yourselves as well, and be proud of that.
Ken, and a question about the certificate. Yes, the certificate does not state online distance learning. Remember, if you are a student of the university, as Dr. Maria said, whether you're online or full-time, you get the exact same degree certificate as if you were doing it on campus. Do get in touch with your academic consultants. We do have a sample that we can actually show you. You can see exactly what your degree certificate will look like. Okay, and one last question. What is the difference between the part-time and the full-time route? And can I swap throughout my studies?
Yeah, you're doubling up on the fast track route. So as mentioned in the presentation there, on the part-time route, we're looking at a notional 15 hours of study per week. If you've studied on the fast track route, that doubles up. So we're looking at approximately 30 hours of study per week. So but it's more than that as well. You need to think about that you could be studying 2 different subject matters, which you will need to think about in depth at master's level. And also you will have assignments on both of those. So for the part-time route, you will have that one assignment typically a 5,000 word assignment, and on the fast track route you would then typically have 2 assignments, which equates to 10,000 words. So keep that in mind. At the dissertation stage, you are looking at 46 weeks of study for the part-time route and 23 weeks of study for the fast track route, which is quite a substantial amount of study to achieve a dissertation within that time scale. So do think about it carefully, because it is intense.
And I can see there's just one little question that has popped through here as well. Is there a possibility for me to take more than the modules that I am taking, in case I do like what I see? So can I actually study more than what I'm supposed to study?
I would say to you is to study what you're studying towards your named awards. And then once you've achieved that, come back to us and we'll talk about then how you might wish to extend that study through undertaking additional modules. But work towards your named awards first, because ultimately that's what's going to give you your certificates, and maybe that you need for your employers, or if you are aspiring for promotion.
Excellent. Okay, good. Well, I have managed to put all the questions together, and they were very, very good questions this evening. Thank you very much, everyone. And as Dr. Maria said, we are currently accepting applications for the upcoming intake. We don't have a lot of places available due to the fact that it is a very, very popular program. So please do get in touch with your academic consultant. Let us get those very important application documents into the university for their review and their assessment, and we can get that very important unconditional offer for you. Again, thank you so much, Marie. It was lovely seeing you again, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and a good evening to everyone.
Thank you. Good evening. Bye-bye.